listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
To battle is to fight, to struggle, to overcome, and ultimately for the Marine Corps, it means to win. There is no alternative. It's not just a statement of intent. It's a promise to our nation. A promise kept for more than 2 centuries. A promise of the Marines.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Okay, good morning, Greg Chorvas.
Good morning, Lawrence Maxwell, and good morning, listeners. This is the Kingston Community Radio Wednesday morning show, broadcasting live from our studios here at 16 Lucas Avenue, right here in Kingston, New York. And it's dark this morning out there. It's misty. The roads really are wet. Dark. Give yourself some extra time to get to your destination.
I thought the weather was going to break. I was waiting. They're supposed to, as I said, beautiful weekend, 77 Saturday and Sunday, but it sure doesn't seem like that today.
No, it does not. It certainly does not.
And so the Yankees, man, the Yankees blew it last night.
Unfortunately, the Yankee season came to a screeching halt. But I think either team that goes up against, although you never know in a short series what's going to happen.
That's true.
Tampa Bay is strong. And
they're good, man.
And
they own the Yankees this year. The Tampa Bay did. So, well, we'll see what happens. The Giants finally got a win. That was
nice.
You know, they haven't won in New Orleans since 1993. They put that stat up on after Saquon scored when he scored the overtime touchdown. They're like, the Giants haven't won here since '93. I was like, wow, that's about 28 years.
Yeah, 28 years. Yeah.
That's quite a feat. So that's good. Actually, everybody won on Sunday in New York. The Jets, the Giants, the Bills, and the Yankees all won on Sunday. But it didn't matter because the Yankees are done now. But yeah, that game on Sunday with the Yankees, it was like 0-0 up until the 9th inning. And then Judge's little single.
Infield single. Yeah.
Is Fred calling in?
He was by the Adams. I think he said he was by Adams or Holiday Inn.
I see the phone ringing. Let me answer.
Yeah, it probably is him.
Sometimes cell phones, they don't come in all that good. So who we got on? Oh, today's the...
Today's
police day.
What's that?
Today's the police day.
Today is police day. But at 7:30, we have Tommy Struzzari Jr. He'll be calling in. Talk about the first, what will become, I believe, an annual triathlon taking place in Saugerties this Sunday.
A triathlon?
Triathlon.
Wow.
Yes. Triathlon.
That's this Sunday?
That's this Sunday. Yeah.
Oh, how'd the Garlic Festival go?
Garlic Festival went real well.
Good. Traffic was good. No problems there. Parking.
No problems.
Now, as many spectators as normal events, or
The
was it a little?
attendees, they asked what they click through, and they don't have the best means of tracking attendees. They click them through with clickers. Generally, the Key Club members do that, and that was just around or under 15,000. But then you got to take into account how many people that may not have been clicked in.
Right.
Saturday was much better than Sunday.
Saturday was better than Sunday.
Much better,
Yeah.
yeah. Especially in our parking lots. Our parking lots were jam full. Our on-site almost sold out on Saturday. Sunday there was even the handicap parking nearly filled on Saturday.
Good. Well, it's good to see that people are not, And to be honest, you look, New York is pretty much what are we at? 91% vaccinated or 89?
Yeah, we're up there.
I mean, we're definitely one of the higher states in people getting vaccinated.
I was very surprised to hear yesterday that in New York City, 96% of the teachers and faculty in the New York City public school system, which is the largest in the country.
I know. What was it? Monday they laid off. What are those 1,400 workers at the hospital? What was that? I read that in the Freeman on Monday. 1,400 workers got laid off.
Now, is that throughout the state?
Yeah, throughout the state.
The state.
Because of hospitals or places. I went to the dentist yesterday, and I still have to wear a mask, and they're still taking my temperature.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, there's still because I mean it's not completely over, and
no, it's not. But it could be if everybody went out and got a shot,
got vaccinated. Yeah. And granted, there are people that have either blood disorders or some medical issue where they cannot receive the vaccine.
Right. Now, remember last year at this time, we were all worried. We couldn't go to Giant games. We were praying for a vaccine. We finally get one, and now half the country doesn't want to take it. Like, come on, man.
Well, it's not half the country.
Well,
but,
I'm saying it used to be, but right.
Although there are a few states that are bordering right around that 50%, and they have the most.
Florida. I mean, I visit Florida quite a bit, not often, and I mean, I know at least out of half of them, say I have 11 or 12 friends down there, half of them are vaccinated.
Only half.
And the other half give me every excuse under the sun why they won't get one. It's a different excuse every time. My arm's going to fall off. I'm going to grow a third ear. None of them make any sense at all. But hey, it's their choice. And
Well,
I
yeah,
understand.
it is to an extent because we've never experienced a pandemic like this that
Never.
has killed the number of people. Even the pandemic back in 1918 that went on.
That influenza thing, Spanish flu, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, that there, obviously back then, there was not the medical technology, but yet, even then, they were still able to eradicate this pandemic. Obviously, the resources that we've got, and with the number of deaths, have the largest. It surpassed the one back in 1918, 1919, in that area there. There has to be some mandates, because when you're putting other people's lives in jeopardy, then it becomes where mandates are necessary.
Well, they're saying that this variant is so bad. Like, it's not like when we and you got my shot was almost 7 months ago now. I got mine in April, but prior to that, we didn't have a Delta variant, and I had a couple friends that caught COVID, and Tony Marmo was one of them. He took his antibiotics, he was fine, But now they say you catch this variant, and it's way worse than the one. It could kill you,
especially if you're not vaccinated.
Right.
Yes.
So if you're not vaccinated,
I mean, I do know of a few people who have been in contact with an individual that tested positive. They tested positive, but they didn't have any symptoms.
Didn't have any symptoms, right? I had a friend in Florida like that. He didn't even know he had it. The only reason he did is his kid went back to school in August. They tested her when she got there. She's like, she's 11, so she's in the shot. She felt fine. They're like, you have COVID. So then her parents went out and got tested. They both had it, but they didn't even know because they felt fine, no headaches or nothing. But they had to stay home for 10 days. They couldn't go to work.
And that just shows that how effective the vaccine is and how important it is for
to get it
for people. And now that Pfizer has come out with the booster shot, that's going to be important. It looks like Johnson & Johnson is right around the corner with a booster. So
I mean, do you get a flu shot every year?
I do.
I did. Yeah, I didn't start getting one until I was 40, but I get one every year too. And I'm going to the doctor today, and I'm probably going to get my flu shot today. But you know, have you ever had the flu? Because I've never had it.
No.
All right. Well, I know some people that have, and it's pretty bad, man. I mean, you could be laid up for a couple weeks, and the flu prior to COVID, I think my mother used to tell me the flu used to kill like 60, 70,000 people a year, worldwide.
Yeah.
And I remember my grandmother always saying, "You gotta get a flu shot. You gotta get a flu shot." I don't need one of them. God, I'm glad I never had the flu. I've been getting one. You know, they're free. Why not? You know, why not take it?
Well, that's
and
the thing.
As soon as I turn 50, I'm getting the shingles shot too. Did you ever get the shingles shot yet?
No, but I'm going to.
My mom goes to church every Sunday. Well, she goes to church every day actually, but she goes to church on Sundays. And she ran into a friend of hers. I'm not going to mention her name. She's like, "Oh, you know, Gene, I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. Where you been?" She's like, "Oh, I had shingles. It's my second time." My mother's like, "Why haven't you got the shot yet?" You know, like this and that. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to get it now." Some people are leery to get it. In Kingston, you go right to Hannaford and get it. And shingles is just like, I believe it's just like the Corona thing. It's a two-part shot.
Yeah.
You get one and then you go back later and get the other one.
Right.
I'm definitely getting that.
Well, you know, in the fact that it doesn't cost anything.
Right.
It's free. And shingles, I mean, I know a couple people, more than a couple, that had it. But I know of
my grandmother had it. She
Two
was
of them.
in
It
pain,
was
man.
nasty.
Yeah. She had she had a ring around. I mean, poor thing. She had a ring around like her stomach. She couldn't
the rash
really move.
is,
She was,
is what's
you know,
bad.
aches and pains. And this went on for almost 3 weeks. So, yeah, vaccines are important.
Yeah,
and you know,
very
when we were
important.
born, I'm sure you're a little older than me, not much, but a little older than me.
Yes,
you
I
know,
am.
we get a lot of vaccines that we never, you know, polio, smallpox. Babies that are born into the world, they get a lot of vaccine. You know, they probably get 20 vaccines when they're born. You know, smallpox, malaria,
Sure.
mumps, measles, whatever. So, what's another one? Another one's not going to kill you, right?
So we got the Kingston Bicycle Repair Clinic taking place on October 20th at the YMCA. Bike
was trying to
Friendly
get you, but I
Kingston is hosting the repair clinic on the 20th. And just you want to make sure your bike is ready to ride. The event takes place in the YMCA parking lot on Pine Grove Avenue in Kingston between 3 and 6 p.m. Bring your bike in to have it checked over. The last bike accepted is at 5:30. A bell in New York State, under New York State law, is required, and if you ride after dark, you need a set of front and rear lights. If you're under 14 years of age, a helmet is required while riding. And all of this stuff, your bells, lights, bike helmets, can be obtained at the clinic. No advance registration. The event is free, but donations are welcome. Please be sure to bring your bike and wear a mask or face covering if you are not vaccinated. There's a rain date of Thursday, October 21st. Same time, and you may reach out to the program coordinator, Tom Polk, at the Y at 845-338-3810, extension 102. And I'm sure if you go on to their website, there's additional information and contact information. Good morning, Fred Costello, Saugerties Town Supervisor. How are you this morning?
Very good. Happy to be here. How are you?
I am fine, thanks.
Did we do this one yet?
No, we did not.
We did not?
That's yours.
All right.
How's that?
All right, I'm on it. So we have the Ulster County Italian American Foundation is doing their annual Italian Festival down on the Strand in Kingston. Admission is free. It'll be Sunday, October 10th from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the Kingston waterfront. Join us for children's activities, food and craft vendors, spaghetti eating contest, and street performances. There will be live music by Angela Bruno, Andrew Hoban, Vanessa Rucci, Vince Carelli and his band, Corey Pestero, and the Michael Dell Orchestra. All current COVID-19 safety protocols will be implemented. Shuttle buses are available from Kingston Point, which will be handicap accessible, Kingston Plaza, and the Cornell Street Municipal Lot. So there's another really nice annual event.
Yes. Nice to see that back. Obviously, that didn't take place either last year. Similar to our Garlic Festival. So it's good to see. It's always a great time.
And great lineup of entertainment. Folks from Saugerties know Michael Dell well.
Very well, yes.
Yeah, and he does a great job.
Yes, he does.
He knows how to bring the crowd into it. So anybody who has a little time and something to do, you'll have a really great time celebrating Italian-American history.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We did a great success with the Garlic Festival.
Yes, it was. It was Saturday. Obviously, the attendance was much more than on Sunday. Lawrence had asked me what they had clicked through the booths with the clickers. Not the best means of tracking attendees. Mm-hmm. Was just about 15 on Saturday and just about 12 on Sunday. So then you got to take, what percentage was not clicked in. With the amount of vehicles that we parked, and I had a total for the time frame, and I don't have the breakdown for each day, but we definitely parked many, many more cars on Saturday. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised. All total, the ones that weren't clicked in was closer to 20. But it was a good crowd. People came early. One thing that we saw was at 9:45, the Pavilion Street entrance off of Small World, that main gate there, which the shuttle buses drop off, that's the most heavily used gate to get into the Garlic Festival. At 9:45, for people who are familiar with the layout of the complex, from that entry gate where Pavilion meets Small World, the line was all the way back to the old Small World playground.
Wow. And
that was at 9:45. Yeah. And then one thing we found is that, usually things start to taper off on Saturday around 4 or 4:30. It was much earlier this year. It was more like 2. So I think more and more people came early, maybe thinking they're going to beat the crowd, or people as the day went on decided not to because of some hesitancy still with COVID.
So you think, it was busy Saturday, so folks that got there might have felt concerned or had that awareness after they ate and saw some entertainment, being like, okay, it's enough. We're not going to take a chance all day.
That could be also, yeah.
It was great, though. It felt good.
It was, and everything is outside. Kiwanis opted not to have any tents this year, so there was no chef cooking demos. The other thing, I can't think of what they normally. There was no children's tent.
Decorating pumpkins and face painting.
Right. So they, they also were very proactive with it and just recognized the fact that a tent was not a great idea. Mm-hmm. It could have came off with no issues, but why take that? Why take that chance? So everything was open air, and the weather was decent. Unfortunately, we got that short line of showers that came through on Sunday, and that kind of put a damper to the rest of the afternoon. But they close an hour early anyway on Sunday at 5.
So normally I think the vendors would have been upset, but a couple of the vendors that I have relationships with when I came by Sunday morning were concerned they were going to run out of food.
Well, there were the Blue Cats.
Yep.
Phil.
Tiziana.
Yeah. They had purchased for Saturday and Sunday and ran out Saturday.
Yep.
We're just about run out on Saturday, and they had to go get more for Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Several of them told me that Saturday, and in talking to Doc Kapler, he got the same feedback. I was talking to Doc yesterday, the same feedback that several of the vendors, the booths, told him. They also told me that Saturday was their best ever. So that speaks.
Yeah. So it may have the weather may have done us a small favor.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But it was good.
Yeah. It felt, and then it just felt great to be there and experience that again, knowing we couldn't do it last year. And it felt just about right. And I also participated in Woodstock Film Festival a little bit.
Okay.
And that was really nice to welcome back. And some really, you got to give it to folks. They build these amazing movies, these independent films on almost no budget whatsoever. And they're really high quality. And there's a gentleman who did a program about PTSD, Better Over Here it's called, And I think that's something that is certainly going to be picked up. And it was a really honest look at folks that are suffering from PSD, especially those service members who came back from Iraq or Afghanistan, and the impacts that it's had on their life and their families. And that there is hope, though. There's some proactive treatment that people are able to engage in, and that seems to be a growing alternative to trying to treat with traditional treatment. So I think there's a lot of hope for these folks. And there was a couple of folks that were part of the film that were involved in Vietnam. And I remember seeing something special when we had the Vietnam Wall, watching the Afghanistan and Iraq veterans kind of interact with the Vietnam veterans, and there was certainly a special bond. And watching that video reminded me of that. And I think this young man did a really nice job with his film, and I wish him the best, and I was pretty honored to be there.
And this weekend, we got the Mum Festival taking place up at Seaman Park.
Oh my goodness, I was almost forgetting that.
Yeah, the Mum Festival is this weekend. First, it's the first one, but I believe it's going to become an annual triathlon, and we've got Tommy Struzzeri Jr. joining us at. He's calling in at 7:35 to talk about that. So a lot of good stuff happening.
Really good stuff happening. Yeah. As I was talking about the film festival, I also meant to mention that Upstate Films has taken over the Orpheum, and this was kind of their first quasi-public hosting of film in the theater. And those guys, they're just bringing a new level of excitement to that building, and it's going to be really exciting to see them. I know they're working with the school to talk about giving the children a chance to show some of their work, and they really embraced the Hudson Valley Film Festival, the Woodstock Film Festival, and I look forward to what they bring forward. It's going to be great.
Now, they completely renovated the interior?
So another tie-in, HBO used the Orpheum for part of their production of Pretty Little Liars,
yeah.
And they actually did some renovation on behalf of them.
Oh, no fooling.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's funny how the pieces kind of fall together. And but they have some really ambitious plans. They really respect the Art Deco legacy of that building, and they're trying to restore those features and those decorative amenities everywhere they can. And you can see it. They peeled back a lot of the drop ceiling and things that were kind of typical to renovations in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they're going back to the traditional stuff. It's kind of cool. Nice, really nice. So
what else?
Geez, that's a lot.
That's a lot right there.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's quite disturbing to see what's going on off the California coast, and how that concrete encased pipeline somehow got yanked 105 feet. Now, can you imagine?
No. That's what is causing the spill?
Yeah.
So there was offshore rigs that...
They think possibly a large ship had anchored, and the anchor got caught in it.
And it broke it?
But it pulled it. It was encased in concrete and pulled it 105 feet. That's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And then they're saying now that there was a delayed response, but it was last evening. Their fear is now that it's going to drift all the way south to San Diego. That's just going to be devastating for those.
The whole California coast, and I know there's some important whale breeding grounds as you get close to the Baja Peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
So you're it's tragic because every 5 to 7 years we see one of these.
Yes, and, it seems that way. You would just think that there would be measures in place if indeed they confirm definitively. But right now they're leaning towards a large ship that was anchored, and the anchor.
It's probably one of the container ships that can't get unloaded.
That could very well be. They're all stacked up on both coasts, both out in the Pacific and the Atlantic.
what a crazy narrative that the headlines are providing right now. It's unimaginable.
No, and sitting here a year ago, nobody saw this.
No.
Nobody saw this.
No. But it's also, the world has become such a small place, and that supply chain, that international supply chain, I keep hearing the reports about that the Christmas season might be augmented because there's going to be a shortage of toys because they can't ship them.
Right.
And, that's going to translate to a whole bunch of other things that we rely upon, sneakers and many other consumer items. It's going to be kind of interesting to see. And I can tell you from experience, the supply chain for the food service industry is still compromised. And I was at the Garlic Fest. I was talking to a couple of folks I know, and some of the folks that are salesmen for the big food supply companies are saying that their bosses are telling them, don't go solicit new customers. We're going to focus on the ones we have just to get through this. So they're not even soliciting new business. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, that is.
That's extraordinary.
Again, nobody saw this. Nobody envisioned this, and it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely wild. Just how long it takes to get practically anything now. It seems everything's being affected.
So it struck me a little bit because a lot of seafood, like we like to Maine lobster and all those things that obviously are well known, but a lot of shrimp and rock lobster and stuff like that comes from especially South America, and those inventories are not there.
Not there.
So it's an odd thing, and right now there's currently a shortage of onion rings.
Is there?
Yep.
Onion rings.
Rings.
Well, add that to the
list of brown bottles and a whole bunch of other things. But the onion ring really caught me off guard because that is it's a really simple product. There's an abundance of onions growing right here in the Hudson Valley, and especially in the Delaware Valley. You wouldn't think that that would be a challenge, but apparently it is.
But it doesn't seem like, certainly a week doesn't go by. Sometimes a day doesn't go by. I mean, look. 2 weeks ago, Stewart's couldn't get the boxes of
box of Joe. Yep.
For the coffee.
Yep.
They're cups
back,
now.
though.
They're cups now. They can't.
They're generic.
They can't get the ones. I mean, just stop and think. It just you look around, just about everything. But we just have to make do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the lack of available staff power, workers, some places have had to unfortunately either scale back or completely shut down.
That's fairly common, and I think those large food distributors not being proactive in seeking new customers is evidence of that. That's a scale back. They're focusing on the customers they have, and so many products, building products are on allocation. So that translates if you're a siding company and you do X amount of square per year on average, that's your allocation. If you're busier than that, you're not going to get it. And if you don't accept it, you may not get it the next month.
Right.
So
right.
There's, folks are having to make calculated decisions, not necessarily based on the work that they have right now, but the work they might anticipate or not. It
is going to be interesting come Christmas, and we always joke around. By Halloween, there's Christmas decorations, and they're pushing Christmas products. May not be a bad idea this year.
Start early.
Start early. I'm pretty safe because I do mainly gift cards, gift certificates, things of that nature. So unless they start to run short on gift certificates,
you can probably get a gift card, you just can't spend it.
Yeah, right.
It'll be.
So again, for our listeners, that we got a minute to go before we take break, and then after the break, I know Chief Joseph Sinagra from Saugerties, our police chief, walked in. Unfortunately, our sheriff is unable to join us this morning, and I don't believe our state police captain will be joining us either. So, but there's
We'll have a fair turnout, though.
Oh yeah, there'll be no issues
Berardi.
because Chief Kyle Berardi will be here, and even if Chief Sinagra had to do it solo, he could talk nonstop for nonstop. And with that, we'll take a break. We'll be back with Tommy Struzzari Jr. talking about the triathlon taking place in Saugerties this weekend.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org. Produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
They just let it resign.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us for the first half hour. Those just joining us, 331-9255 is our call-in number. We'd love to hear from you. In the studio here with me is Saugerties Police Chief Joseph Sinagra. Good morning, sir.
And good morning, and how are you? And Mr. Supervisor, how are you today?
Fred Costello, Supervisor, Town of Saugerties.
Good morning, listeners.
And we are expecting Tommy Struzzari Jr. to be calling in to talk about the triathlon taking place in Saugerties.
So I heard you talking about the Garlic Festival, though. We got to backtrack there before Tom calls in.
Okay.
So what were numbers? Do you know?
Well,
did you?
What they clicked in from what Doc was saying was just under 15 on Saturday, just under 12 for Sunday. Their means of tracking attendees is not the best in the world.
Right.
So, a lot of people probably did not get clicked in. I don't know. Judging by what we parked in the parking lot, I would have estimated that figure was more like around 20,000, and then 12 to 15 on Sunday. Saturday was it could have even been more on Saturday. Saturday, our parking lots were jammed. We almost sold out of on-site at one point. Handicap parking almost came to full capacity. You know how big that
Right.
lot is.
Yep. Yeah, I know the drone photos, and look, when you compare them to years past, the crowds seem to be just about as condensed.
Yeah. I believe we have on the phone here Tom Struzzari Jr. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Morning, Tom. It's the Chief.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So we got some exciting news for everybody, right? I've seen all the signs.
I do, yeah. We're pretty excited about this weekend, or Monday. It's going to be a fun day, hoping for some good weather. But, yeah, we're going to be swimming, biking, and running through the town of Saugerties Monday morning, Columbus Day.
Oh, geez, I was mistaken. I said Sunday in the first
Oh,
half
no,
hour.
Monday and Columbus Day. So just for our listeners, what's the route look like?
So the route, we're going to swim at Saugerties Village Beach in the Sopus Creek there. So it's a triathlon event, which is an event where you do 3 different disciplines, swim, bike, and run. And you start out swimming at Saugerties Village Beach. There'll be 2 different distances. There's a sprint distance and an Olympic distance, so 2 different lengths that athletes will be participating in. And so they'll swim there. They'll then run across the street to Diamond Mills Hotel and Tavern parking lot, and they're going to exchange their swim gear for their bike gear. They'll then go up 9W, take a left over by Lauren Tice Road and get out over there and bike towards Palinville, actually. And it's a very pretty ride, shows off a lot of what Saugerties has to offer. And they'll go out and back. Both distances will go out and back. And then they'll come back into the Diamond Mills Hotel again, and then proceed to run through Cantine Field. I'm sure you're familiar with Cantine Field. And then we'll get onto the hit showgrounds and turn around and come back. So it'll show everything that Saugerties has to offer. Like I said, you'll bike through town and you'll run through town. So it gives people. We have a lot of people that are coming from New York City. I saw some Connecticut people, and they'll come over and they'll see the beauty of Saugerties.
Now, you're looking to make this an annual event, correct?
Yep. It's going to be every year annually. We do one other one here in Hudson Valley at Williams Lake, and that's in June. We've done that for now 5 years, so we're hoping to do a series of 2 here in Hudson Valley.
Tom, what kind of athletes does this attract? Are we going to see any potential Olympians? And also, I'm assuming we have. Is there like 2 legs, like novice and then a more experienced, or?
So this race is more of a beginner to intermediate race, but I will say that recently our team has added an Olympic runner. His name is Dan Brown, and he will be attending. He's the half or a marathon and 10K Olympian in 2004 for the U.S. So he'll be there. He'll be part of our team running the event. But the athletes themselves will mostly be intermediate athletes, and our races promote the sport of triathlon, and we hope that if you get a relaxed atmosphere, a place where you can compete in a pretty place, then you can help grow the sport and get more people every year.
That's really awesome. So now, if I'm a resident and they're coming through my neighborhood and I want to offer them refreshments, is that acceptable, or do you have locations where they're going to be able to hydrate?
Yeah, sure thing. It's acceptable, that's for sure. Again, like I said, we're not running through many neighborhoods. We are. It's hard to offer refreshments on the bike. They're going by you at 25 miles an hour. But for the run, Cantine Field is a great spot to be at. We'll have a refreshment table there, and we'll have a sports drink and, maybe some, bars there that they can have while they're running. But yeah, that's a good spot. And then the Hit Showgrounds is a good spot as well. But otherwise, we'll just be through town and those 2 spots. So, it's cool. Some of our races, we do get those people involved, and they stand on their lawn and they cheer on the participants. It's a fun day, that's for sure.
Right. Hey, I don't know if it's too early yet, because I'm assuming you probably take entries right up till the day of, but how are we looking number-wise?
We have about 200 in the race.
Wow.
So of course, these races grow over time. So our race in at Williams Lake in Hudson Valley there, it was called the Hudson Valley event, we call it, and it has about 600 in it after 5 years. So hoping to grow to those same numbers.
That's a good number, 200 for your very first year. And can individuals sign up the day of?
The day before, so up till Sunday night, they can sign up.
Gotcha.
So they can sign up on alpha.win, our website. Instead of a .com, it's .win. And then they can go to Saugerties Triathlon and sign up right there.
Very nice. And so what's at the end of the race? Is there a purse? Is there you have bragging rights? What happens at the end of the race?
So we'll have an award ceremony. So we have the sprint and Olympic distance, and then following that, we'll actually have a kids race called a splash and dash, where you swim and run. So they'll be swimming in the beach or at the beach there, and then they'll be running up West Bridge Street there and turning around and come back. So it's a shorter distance, but that's benefiting the Boys and Girls Club. So if you are a local person and you have kids and you want to enter that race, that one you don't need as much training for, so it's a good time to enter that, and 100% of the proceeds will benefit the Boys and Girls Club. And so we'll do that, and then we'll have our award ceremony for all three distances, and they'll get a plaque if they become top three in their age group, which means that the majority of people will get plaques and have a chance to show off, they're second in their age group, and it's every 5 years for age groups.
Right.
But when you finish, you also receive a medal and a T-shirt.
That's great. So now what's the age range then for the kids race?
So the age range, the first one is 7 to 10, and then the second one is 11 to 15. So there's two different distances again for the splash and dash kids race. And so they'll do swim, run, and the older kids will do a longer distance.
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's Fred Costello. How you doing?
Hey, Fred.
Good. We're excited for you. This is, I think this will be a really exciting addition to the fall menu of events that happen in Saugerties. And the bike race part of it, how far is that?
So the kids won't bike, but the sprint will do a 12.4 mile bike, and the Olympic will do a 24.8 mile bike, so it's twice as far. So they'll go out. The Olympic will go all the way out to Old Kings Highway and up over there, and they'll turn around and come back. And then the sprint will make it to around Lawrence Heights, and then they'll come back.
All right, cool. I think it's worth noting, doing an event like this in Saugerties is a little bit tricky. We have all the right ingredients to railroad, all of it, and the scenic vistas, but the railroad splits the town right in half. And obviously, if people are running and keeping track of time, you can't pause for a train. So when they planned this route out, they had to consider that and plan a route that avoids the train traffic.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say, what do they do, high hurdle the train?
But doesn't that makes it a challenge when you plan an event like this, correct?
Yeah, I certainly would have sent them a different direction if there was no railroad, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's a cool course. It's right past my house, so it's not 9W there, and then it goes all the way out there. So it's a road that I bike on every day. So it's a safe, nice route.
Yeah, it is, and I think on 9W the shoulders are welcoming to this type of event where there's not a lot of conflict between cyclists and cars.
Yeah, and it's in the morning of Columbus Day, so it's hopefully that we have less traffic than a usual day of the week. So it should be safe enough, and hopefully we can we'll have people out on the course there to also watch them. So.
And we'll remind our motorists, because I'll jump in now and get the little PSA out there for public safety. But just remind our motorists, this event's taking place on Monday, so please use caution around the runners and the bicyclists, and be cognizant of what's taking place there Monday. And it's a great event. You should come out and just watch it.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, are you participating?
Am I participating? I'm not.
No, because you're the organizer. So yeah, you're going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off, probably.
I hope not, but yeah, that's usually how it goes. Yep.
I got to tell you, you and your dad are true champions in showcasing Saugerties, a village in the town.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the residents appreciate that, and I know I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. How did the event go this past weekend?
Excellent. Saturday was heavily attended. In fact, we were talking earlier, and I said I didn't have the breakdown because Sergeant Fallon had sent a 4-day one, and he said, I'll try to get to you before the radio show. And sure enough, what I said, the numbers backed up. The vehicles coming down Mike Kraut Road from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. was over 2,200. And on Sunday, it was just under 1,600. And that's only from one direction. So there was an equal number of cars coming from the south. So if you double that figure, about 4,500 cars on Saturday incoming. And then, you kind of multiply that, okay, how many people in a vehicle. And then you've got the ones that come with the shuttle buses. So again, very, very difficult to kind of pinpoint a precise number like you can at some other events. But Saturday was great. The parking lots were jam full, and I couldn't say anything more than what Chief Sinagra said. Without you and your father and giving up your property, the RV parking lot, you never charge us a penny. You never charge Kiwanis a penny. The Garlic Festival would not be as successful because any event where you have to have satellite parking and bus people in, that in itself is a deterrent to a lot of people. To be able to park your vehicle and walk a short half mile at the most on the trail that we put in years ago, or get onto a shuttle bus and literally in 5 minutes or less, you're right at the entry gate. So thank you and your father for that. And that RV parking lot was pretty packed on Saturday, and there was quite a few vehicles in there on Sunday.
Hey, great! What a great way to promote Saugerties, that's for sure. And don't thank us. Saugerties means so much to us, that's for sure. I grew up here, and I would do anything for it. So,
well, here's the deal, and I've said this to your father before. And the three of us sitting here, because we're so involved with events, know what you and your family, you and your father, your family do. But so many do not realize to the extent of what you do for our community, what you've meant as far as the economy for Saugerties. Both the HITS facility and Diamond Mills are two big economic drivers. And that positive economic domino effect, as I like to call it, back into the community, Ulster County, Hudson Valley, and even beyond. You mentioned you've got some people coming from the city, you've got people coming from Connecticut. They'll use the thruway, they buy gas, they buy food, and it all adds up to benefit our economy and our community.
Appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you.
So what else do you got going for us here with this event? I'm sure there were some things you wanted to make sure that you got out today on the radio.
Yeah, so I think that I would love to have some spectators there. So, a good time to get there on Monday is, before 8 o'clock, which is when the first race goes off. I'd love to have some people there to promote, cheer on the athletes. So Diamond Mills parking lot before 8 o'clock is a good time to watch the swimmers go off. And if you want to volunteer, that's also a good time to check in and volunteer, which is a fun day. And get some athletes pumped up.
That's great. And what's that website again?
It's alpha.win, and that's the website. And you just go to Saugerties Triathlon, and you should be able to volunteer or sign up.
That's awesome.
Tommy, you do these events all over the country, correct?
I do, yes. So we go to, our next stop is a couple weeks away, and we go to Palm Springs, California, Coachella Valley there. We have a triathlon there. And then we head up northern California to Napa Valley. So we travel all around the country doing these events. Some bigger than others, and some need to be grown over time. It's nothing like your hometown, that's for sure. But we go to Florida from there. So it's Florida, California, New York, and then we have some in the middle of the country as well.
Pretty neat. not that it would be better than Saugerties, but I'm sure the views in Napa and Coachella Valley are pretty spectacular as well.
Cool spots. Yeah, certainly, like you said, like the train tracks are tough in Saugerties. There's certainly some difficulties in every spot, and some advantages as well. Like I said, though, hometown, there's no reason to not do one here. That's for sure. And I'd love to talk about some other events that I was thinking about later on with you, Fred, because I think we can make a little series out of this.
Oh yeah, we're interested for sure. That would be fun.
Absolutely.
One of the things, cool. Not necessarily this particular type of activity, but when folks come here and plan events, there's such a unique mix, and obviously having the creek and running through the heart of the village and then going out into a rural part of town really is going to give people who come a pretty significant taste of what it is like to experience and live in Saugerties. In the top of Kraut Road, Greg and I talk about all the time. When you're at the top of that hill looking at the overlook mountain, it's pretty magical. It's pretty fun.
I'm fortunate every morning because I'm right on the Malden Turnpike, just in from the 9W. I take that in every single morning, and anytime I go into the village, anytime during the day, even in the evening as the sun is setting, it's just spectacular. It is spectacular. Yeah. Spectacular.
That's certainly a good view. I don't know if a Kraut Road is as I love it as much as you guys. I do a lot of workouts there. It's a tough road to run and bike up of, but it's certainly a good view at the top. That's for sure.
Yeah. There's a reward when you get to the top, but that hill is steep. It is. Yeah. It is, yeah. We when my daughter was small, we would kind of make a habit out of biking, and we went that way one time. Like, ooh, I overlooked I kind of forget how steep that is when you're driving in the car. But it's both ways coming down it. We were nervous too because she was a young rider, and you always worry about her having control of it.
I'd say though, in my opinion, partition's worse. Tom, you run partition at all?
I do as well. So the athletes, on Monday. So it's going to be a tough start to the race, but then you get out into rolling territory.
I got a couple years ago.
No escaping that hill, that's for sure.
Oh, I know, and it's what it is because it's like a steady incline, and it goes on forever when you're running it. A couple of years back, we did the torch run, and we started at 9W at the town of Ulster, town of Saugerties town lines, and ran up to Diaz Ambulance. And I got to tell you, the worst leg of that was partition. I was sucking wind by the time I got to the top of the hill. I'm telling you, it was bad. It was bad. But it's just a steady incline,
It is, yeah.
And when you think and I kept looking down. I wouldn't even look up because I didn't want to know what short distance I went. But yeah.
I feel like I always go too fast too because I always see somebody I know down, so I'm always speeding up. And that's always a problem too. So that's the start of my run because I usually start down there at Diamond Mills and run up, and that's also where my offices are. So I run up there, and then I'm already out of gas by the time I get to the top.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's a lot younger than us too.
So it's all good stuff, Tom. It's really great that you're doing this. And again, just for those who are just joining the show, Columbus Day, we're going to have a little triathlon out there in Saugerties. Actually, it sounds like a big triathlon, about 200 competitors. And
yeah, that's
just please pay attention, especially when you're on Partition Street, because that's where the first leg will start, coming out of the beach and heading up Partition to the Diamond Mills, and then from there up to 9W to Lauren Tice. And you said you're going towards Palinville. Do you actually get into Palinville?
Yep. And I will say that one thing to be aware of is if you're crossing the bridge there, you will have some delays in the morning. Because you can't really see around the corner, so you might not know what's going on. But you'll have some traffic delays through town in the morning if you're there up early on Columbus Day, and some traffic delays definitely across the bridge.
Yeah, we'll have police officers there to help with the traffic.
So that's going to experience when the competitors leave the water and begin the run up the hill. So when they cross 9W at the bottom, that's where we're going to have posts to make sure everybody's safe.
Yes.
But it'll be good.
Yeah.
Is what's the water temperature? Do we know? Or it doesn't?
I think it's mid-60s, mid-60s, 65 at this moment. I'm going to get in there and take it today, so I'll let you know.
Good. Everybody's going to be wide awake. They'll jump in 60-degree water and
yeah.
Yeah.
You wear a wetsuit. You wear a wetsuit to swim. It gives you the extra buoyancy. So I swam it the other day and it was fine. It's not warm, but with a wetsuit it's fine. I'm going to put up a little heating spot, so when you get out of the water, you can warm up.
So do the competitors change then? They leave the water and they put on different clothes so that they can ride the bike?
So you wear your singlet, per se, or your suit underneath. You wear bike pants, and it's a combination bike pants and singlet.
Yep.
You wear that underneath your wetsuit. So you tear your wetsuit off as you run up to your bike.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
No, I didn't
So there's a
either.
lot of for the competitors. There's a lot of
pretty cool.
technical. I'm sorry.
It's a pretty cool sport. It's not a sport that you think of. It was created in San Diego. It's not an old sport. It's a relatively young sport. 50 years old. But it's definitely a growing sport. So that's one of the things. You tear your wetsuit off as you run up to your bike. Then they run their bike up and mount it, but some people leave their shoes already clipped into their bike, and they throw their shoes on after they get on their bike. It's a pretty cool sport that way, and that's why it's if you want to spectate that and get into a new sport, then it's a good time to do it.
So there's deliberate planning and changing, trying to save time, I imagine.
Exactly. Yeah. It's transition time, right? So that's what it's called. So they practice that. The athletes practice that all the time. You save a minute there, then you can bike a minute slower. So it's unique, that's for sure. You have to get a lot of equipment, and lay yourself out the right way. But it certainly helps you in the long run.
So once the starting gun goes off, that clock begins for everyone, and then everybody who could shave seconds off of their time increases their probability of having a good event.
Yeah, so they'll get the clock will go off. They start at 8 o'clock, and then they'll get in the water. And as soon as they finish their swim, they'll run through a timing point. So that'll be one of their split times. Then they'll run out of another timing point with their bike. So then they'll get their swim time and their transition time. So and they'll of course get their bike time and transition again and get their run time. So then they'll combine the whole thing to make one big time. So most of the time, if you're the slowest swimmer there, it doesn't mean you're going to lose the race. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Usually this race is won in the run as long as you can keep up on the bike.
Really, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot here.
If I'm a competitor, what's a reasonable amount of time to expect that I'm going to be out there? Is it?
So for the shorter distance, anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, and the longer distance, anywhere from 2 hours to 4 or 5 hours. So it's a longer event for some people, and it's hard. It's 20. So it's a 10K run and a 5K run after the 12-mile bike and 24-mile bike. So it's not short, that's for sure. Even though it's called a sprint, it's still 12 miles in the bike and 5K in the run, which is a lot for everybody. That's a long time. So when Lance Armstrong started his career, he started out in triathlon, right? And so then after his biking career, of course, we all know what happened to him, but regardless of that, he went back to triathlon and biked so hard, biked so fast that he would get enough of a lead, and then he would just coast in for the run. So it's a cool sport that way. And we had, at our races, we've had Jimmy Johnson. He won Athlete of the Year the one year, and everybody was looking at that in ESPN that it was pretty stupid that he was winning Athlete of the Year as a race car driver, but he came to 6 or 7 of our events and raced with us, and he was a good athlete, that's for sure. So I certainly voted for him. So we get some cool people out there to race sometimes. It's a cool sport that way.
Yeah, interesting. And your dad's been doing this for quite a while too. I know he shared with us some of his experience in doing a triathlon in Europe and running through Paris and some other events, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's done, I think, 7 or 8 full distances, which is a distance that we put on. That's a 2.4 mile swim. It's a 112-mile bike, and then a marathon, 26.2-mile run. So he's done at least 7 of those in his life.
Wow. Wow.
And so that's quite the day. It takes you around the fastest guy's 8 hours, and the slowest person is 20 hours. So it's the sport has a lot to grow. So you start with the sprint distance and you work your way up. But it's a lot of training, a lot of time, and a lot of, you got to have a lot of willpower to do those kind of things.
Yeah, and you have to stay healthy. I think that's a lot of fatigue on your body trying to be competitive and run at a high rate or swim or bike at a high pace for that length of time.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's hard to stay healthy in any sport, especially running specifically. You can bike and swim staying healthy, but as soon as you start running, you get a stress fracture or something like that. And it's a tough sport. You gotta admire the people that do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so cool to be out at these events and these races and take a look at these people achieving their dreams that they've trained for every day for the last year or so.
Well, unfortunately, Tom Struzzari Jr., we are out of time. Thank you very much for taking time out of your, I'm sure, very, very busy day. And wish you the best of luck and success. I believe, looking at the weather's supposed to be decent on Monday, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Good.
I appreciate the time. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Tommy.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer? The Drug Facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the Drug Facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drugfactslabel. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from. All that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, I'm Ruth Quick from town of Ulster. I support Kingston Community Radio, and you should too.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
I was up, so.
We're sending our...
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, listeners and viewers who have been with us. Those just joining us, 331-9255 is our call-in number. We'd love to hear from you. In the studio is Police Chief Joseph Sinagra from Saugerties.
The one and only.
The one and only is right. The Town of Ulster Police Chief Kyle Berardi.
The one and
only. And Fred Costello, the one and only Town Supervisor from Saugerties. It is time for birthdays. What do we got?
Oh, geez. Look, he threw the paper in front of us. We didn't even know it.
You didn't even, I knew. I was paying attention,
So
Joe.
the one and only Town of Ulster Police Chief Kyle Berardi. Go ahead.
I would like to wish a happy birthday to Kim Armstrong from your friends and family. Congratulations, Kim.
And I have a birthday here for Peggy Almquist. And it says, thanks a lot. And it's from her hubby of 31 years.
Good
Frank.
for them.
And today's winner of that famous cow pie is Peggy Almquist.
Hey!
Peggy, when you get the opportunity, first of all, congratulations, happy birthday. When you get the opportunity, get down to Boy's Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, right here in Kingston, New York. Pick up that famous cow pie, which is courtesy of Boy's Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. Listeners and viewers, please continue to send those birthdays in. Very easy to do. You can email kcr921@gmail.com. You can postal mail to Kingston Community Radio, P.O. Box 4364, Kingston, New York, 12402. Once again, Peggy Almquist, congratulations. Happy birthday. Enjoy that cow pie and have an awesome day.
Happy birthday. So,
Joe,
Chief
how are
Berardi.
You know, it's funny. We come off the commercial, Joe, and it's like we were just jawing at each other already, and it's bright and early in the morning.
Bright and early in the morning. The best part was that nobody heard what it was before the commercial break. Greg has to reel us in at times. So what's going on? What's the good stuff out there in the town of Ulster?
I don't know. I mean, we've been busy.
Yeah. We had You got to get through the week. Yeah, well, we have. Unfortunately, that's our jobs, right? I mean, it happens. We go for a period of time where there's a lull, and we seem to be able to have plenty of time to get our work done, and then it just takes. It only takes. Yeah, really. What was that? Well, it kind of reminded his week was like ours in 2016. He didn't have a good week.
It reminds you. I mean, it reminds you that when you're up, 1 o'clock in the morning and you don't go to sleep until the following day type of thing. It reminds you.
It does
how it takes its toll on you. That's for sure.
Probably one of the most morbid things about this job, but because I say morbid because to me it's one of the exciting things about the job. You just never know. You never know when you go in the morning what your day is going to be like until it's over. What you're going to encounter, what issues you're going to have,
I don't know
what crimes
I wonder
occur.
if it's easier. Is it easier to have a day that just continues right through, or is it easier to like start, get woken up in the middle of the night or whatever the case may be to have to go out, and then that's your day right there. You ever wonder what treats you better? I mean, both of them are hard on me at this point. It's not like when I was in my 20s and.
It was much easier back then.
I know. I think about that your point once in a while. I feel like those days where you're just overwhelmed, you pay for it later because everything you thought you were going to do that day that you didn't touch
and it
doesn't actually go away. Now you're 4 or 5 days from that moment, and you're still trying to catch up.
Well, that's why we have mental health issues in law enforcement. That's why we have, like individuals, police chiefs, police officers, high blood pressure, diabetes. I mean, when you take a look at the multitude of medical issues that this job brings about, that adds extra pressure to our everyday.
Well, that's the everyday, like supervisor was saying already. Everyday stuff gets pushed back. I got piles on my desk of this has got to be done, this has got to be done. But that day's shot.
Yep.
You hopefully you get back to it the next day. And it's a continuation, unfortunately. Yeah. And that's what I said. I remember when I got promoted to detective, it was like, the whole feeling is you want to keep your desk clean, right? You want to keep your desk clean, nothing on it. And I tell all my new guys and girls coming in as a detective, I'm like, that desk will never be clean, just to let you know. And you could try your hardest, right? You can keep everything neat, tidy it up, type it up, file it, whatever the case may be. You get that one case, it sets you back for weeks, and it's not like everything else stops. The world doesn't stop because of that one incident you're investigating, and unfortunately, that's what kind of gets you behind.
Yeah.
And Joe, you've seen it over the years.
Oh yeah, and the sad thing about it is, because every case that we investigate, that's the priority to that person that was involved in that crime.
Mm-hmm.
So they expect 100% attention, until the crime is solved, and they don't realize sometimes that these detectives are juggling 25, 30 cases at a time.
Yeah, the simple things of just following up and getting a piece of property back to somebody. For them, it's important. And it's not that it's not important to law enforcement. It's just not the priority at that point. Right. You got to put life before everything else, and then you got to juggle it. And most people understand it, but it's hard to keep on pushing people off because you just can't have the time. There's not enough hours in the day to do it.
Right. And then to complicate things, because I had to bring this up because, I get my emails and I open my emails. I'm very, very, very disappointed in the number of parolees that have been released recently. And when I say I'm disappointed in that, some of them are released for good reason. Some of their crimes weren't heinous, but some very, very heinous crimes. And we have a potential in Saugerties. We have an individual coming in off of parole next week that was in for murder. And, the person's on parole until 2075. That should be a clue that the crime was pretty heinous. And
that's a long time to be monitored. And I'm all about reform, and they fixed whatever was going on years ago when the incident happened. But the problem is the rest of the community still has to live with that.
Right.
The victims of that crime still have to live with that. The remainder of the community that wants to be safeguarded. The unfortunate part is they're seeing a trend where they're releasing people from prison. I understand if they're reformed or they can go back into society, that's fine. But then the ultimate, where's the repercussions going to come in?
Right.
Who's
ironically,
going to see those repercussions?
I've witnessed this. Ironically, many times where there's a person who's involved in something tragic and they come back to our community, it's very often the police department that ends up making sure that they are safe because if they had a legacy as a sex offender, they have to register, and now all the neighbors know, and there's a concern and sometimes a hostility associated with that, and the police department ends up being the first line defense of this person who was convicted of a fairly serious crime.
Well, and our obligation is obviously to protect the rights of everyone.
Right. Yes.
We don't discriminate who we protect.
No. So, for them, and I know dealing with sex offenders, unfortunately, they kind of get pissed off or whatever the case may be at the police department because of the fact that we got to notify neighbors. Mm-hmm. But it's the obligation. It's our obligation to the community to if it was the roles were reversed, they'd want us to do the same thing for them. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, my neighbors aren't going to talk to me now, or they're gonna shun me. unfortunately, you
have to do it.
Rules are the rules, The law.
But they're also not going to send their child over with a box full of brownies to welcome somebody into the neighborhood. That could be a danger to that child.
The law allows for notification, and the community has a right, in the state thought the community had a right to know about it. So our job is to notify them about it. We don't mind them living there. It has no. It's not about that. It's about safeguarding the remainder of the community. There's decisions we make every day, and it might not be in the best. It's in the best interest of everybody. It might not be the most popular decision, but unfortunately, that's not. That's not what we're doing.
It's sad to see too with bail reform. I mean, and I'll put it right out there on the table for our listeners. But when we take a look at somebody who's being tried for heinous crime, and witnesses don't want to come back and testify simply because they're afraid, that's a problem. That's a problem. And we said from day one, when they started to institute bail reform and they came out with the recommendations, that a lot of these were not going to work, that it was going to have a negative backlash on the communities. And, without community participation, we talk about Sir Robert Peel and his 9 principles of policing, and we talk about the community being the police. Well, bail reform took that away, because the community doesn't want to get involved anymore. They don't want to participate with the police. They don't want to provide information, and it's sad. And then when they do provide information, and their name and their address and phone number is immediately turned over to the defense, that has an impact, a negative impact on the entire criminal justice system and the ability to be able to prosecute those cases. And we just saw that here.
Whatever was the rationale behind that?
I don't know. It
doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
It's loosely based off we have the right to know our accuser. And but I think in many cases where there's eyewitnesses of things that were dangerous, especially when it's related to gang activity, those people want to protect their privacy, because if the word's out that I'm turning you in,
right,
I might be subject to gang activity myself, similar violence. So I think that's compromised a lot of the investigative work that's being done to try to curtail drug trafficking and gang activity.
Well, I mean,
fair?
generally,
Very
who's going to
fair.
want to put their name on paper when somebody's going to find out about it immediately? You're living in a community with your family, and you witness something, and then all of a sudden you put your name on paper, and now you're no longer private anymore. Now you're put out in the public. The court knows your name. The defendant is gonna know your name shortly thereafter. The demand for them is there, and is there still people that want to cooperate because they want to do good? Absolutely, but I think there's a percentage out there that are fearful of what's going to retaliation is going to happen to them.
And that has to be a growing percentage.
Well, I mean, we just saw, like Joe had just mentioned, we just saw the incident, the homicide investigation in Kingston. I mean, that was resting on witnesses, and unfortunately, the witnesses didn't want to cooperate.
And Chief Tinty alludes to this all the time. I mean, he's advocating for that camera system, and part of the reason is he wants an unbiased witness that's willing, that he could take to court. So if the city controls a camera system, it's city property, and they can bring that to court, and they don't have to worry about a witness being intimidated or not being willing to share camera video that they may have from their home security system.
Right. And I get a kick out of it, too, just when he was talking about security systems, because you have people saying Big Brother, George Orwell, 1984, right? So we have Big Brother watching, and then what does everybody have today that we solicit for them to sign up with the police department? Ring doorbells. So everybody is monitoring everybody else.
It's the fact is that people have reservations about government doing it.
Right.
But everybody, I mean, I got cameras on my house. I mean, it's not that I don't trust. It's more, my kids are coming and going and stuff like that. I want to keep an eye on them. But it's just the facts of life. Everybody's got a camera. And what is everybody's first idea to do is when they go past a scene of what EMS or law enforcement there, pick up their cell phones and videotape it.
That's the wave of the future, and it should rightfully be so, especially if we're going to have to count on this video footage now to be our eyes and ears to be able to prosecute cases. Because obviously...
I know the reservations about license plate readers and stuff like that, but I can't tell you how many times the license plate readers has helped us solve crime.
So, it's kind of funny because you talk about government. So people have a problem with police having license plate readers, LPRs are referred to. But Disney World, major malls, Mall of the U.S., any place that you go, they for years have had license plate readers.
We're actually just catching up.
We're catching up to the technology that's been out there for 2 decades.
The private sector has been doing it for forever. Government's just catching up to that. I mean, there's a couple apartment complexes in the town that have their own license plate readers. Perfect, right?
Right,
I'm not resistant to that. I mean, that's their right to safeguard their property, and if they choose to use that technology to do so, I just ask. Hopefully, they share it with us. And that's the thing. Those things can help solve crimes without bringing an innocent person in to testify to it.
Right.
We've seen for years now. I mean, just dash cams and body cams have been used for prosecution of cases. Because you don't solely have to rely on the testimony of the officer. You got it on video, and there's limitations of video. There's nobody saying that, but it surely is a lot better than it used to be when we first came on in law enforcement. You had nothing. Back then the word of the officer was gospel. Unfortunately, we're kind of past that in this era of policing.
Well, back then too, you didn't have a movement to defund the police. You had a movement that supported the police.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
and we've gone so far left in this country that you ever see the movie Idiocracy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's where we're headed. I'm telling the people out there, the Idiocracy. You got to watch it because it's the epitome of where we are currently headed if we keep going the way we're going. But I will say for our listeners here in Ulster County that we do, for the most part, the majority of police agencies here don't experience the whole defund the police like the rest of the country does, or certain pockets.
I think generally across the board, Ulster County has been lucky. I mean, we have our trying times, and there's communities that feel a little bit differently. Me personally, I want to thank the town of Ulster community. They've always been supportive of the police department. They continue to be supportive. A lot of it is trying to educate them, and I know you do that up in Saugerties, Joe. It's about trying to make them understand why we do what we do, and we want to do better. And there's nobody that doesn't want to do better.
Right.
It's about trying to be transparent and make everybody understand what we do. We just got our delivery of our new dash cam body cam system a couple days ago. It's a $135,000 system. I mean, the community. We're investing in the community because that's what community expects from us. It's going to take some time to roll out. Obviously, it's got to be installed and stuff like that. But we understood what they wanted from us.
Right.
And we're delivering on that.
So the dash cam and body cam are paired.
It's integrated. It does both.
It does both.
So I've worked and I've talked to I talked to Joe. I've talked to other chiefs across the county and stuff like that. We've had dash cams for 20 plus years. And that's why I came on the job with a dash cam. So body cams were new to me. And I looked at it. I looked at the limitations of both, and obviously we've done well with just dash cams up until this point, but people want more. So I understand that. I understand. When the officer gets out of the car, there's limitations. So my selling point was I also saw what the dash cam captured that the body cam was missing, and I just saw it the other day. My SRO. He's had a body cam for the last several years now because obviously he spends 8 hours a day outside the vehicle in the school, and he was driving to another adjoining school, and I looked at the dash cam as he was driving there because it was activated, and all I seen is the steering wheel of the patrol car. So that reminded me how, and he's not a short officer, he's a rather tall officer, but that just reminded me of the limitations of body cam alone would have had. Because it's hard to control where it's going to be placed on the officer. You say center mass or whatever, off the pocket or whatever the case may be. But for my center mass or his center mass are two different things.
Two different perspectives of what's
going. So that's how I sold it to the town, and obviously they were supportive of the idea. But it came with a hefty price tag,
and that comes with
managing the data is and
it comes with more data. So now you got two viewing points, right? You got the camera on the dash that is recording. You got the body cam that's recording. So but we got to know going into law enforcement. I mean, right now with discovery and dash cam, body cams, and everything else, and surveillance video downloaded for investigations. Server storage is paramount. Right?
You're cloud based though with this particular.
I'm going server based. I stay
server based. Oh, good. So is that Axon?
No, it's through a WatchGuard.
Okay, I was gonna say I didn't think Axon had that. Okay.
No, it's through staying server based. I evaluated both sides, cloud based, server based. The drawbacks, there's drawbacks of both. But the fact is, it's server-based gives you a little bit more.
Well, cloud-based has that reoccurring cost.
Well, that's the thing. And don't get me wrong, the cost of servers, luckily, we put a new server into the purchase price. But it's something that just was a decision that was made between IT and stuff like that, we can manage the server. It's hard to manage the cloud. Obviously, the cloud is owned by WatchGuard or Motorola, who actually bought out WatchGuard now. So, and you're going to see that away over the future. These larger companies are going to buy out these smaller ones, so they're going to kind of control the market. And it's not like shopping. There's not a lot of shopping to do out there. It's either you got Axon, WatchGuard, Panasonic, makes one. It's whatever you're kind of looking for.
It's an interesting dynamic though, because organizations of the size we all represent, managing on-site servers to handle this capacity is a challenge, and I feel like there's going to be an element of default, even though those are recurring costs. That data being stored somewhere else, you have the benefit of that big IT department who can manage it and keep it accessible if needed, and kind of preserve it for a longer period of time than we might. If you have your servers in town hall and something catastrophic happened and that's the only location of the server, now the data is going to be compromised or lost, so you need a backup plan.
Well, no, exactly. And luckily, our IT guy, or it's a private contractor we utilize, we have a backup system, at a remote site. But there's a lot goes into, a police department now. And unfortunately, I see a lot of these smaller agencies are going to struggle because there's not those
costs are prohibitive.
It's not there.
Right.
We're same age. Saugerties and Ulster, same.
Parallel.
New Paltz. We're around the similar sizes. The costs that associated with running our size police
expensive.
Department, it's cost of doing business. Unfortunately, we understand that the community wants law enforcement. The majority of the community wants law enforcement, but it comes with a price tag. And our job is to manage that price tag. And that's what I've told my reform committee, and I've told community members. I'm a CEO of a business. I run a $3 million organization off taxpayer.
Oh, how much was that? $3 million? $3 million?
Wow! Joe's acting surprised.
You know what I could do with $3 million?
What do you have? What's yours, Joe?
Mine was 2.6. 2.6 this year.
Sorry. Yeah.
So we haven't broke through.
We're okay.
But listen, if we're getting there, if my budget gets accepted that I put in for, then we're going to break that number. And it's not doing it to break a number. It's doing it because, again, like you just said, when we talk about, like with the Saugerties Police Reform Re-Envision Collaborative Committee, which was a mouthful, the name of our committee, the recommendations that came out of that, they come with a price tag. And rightfully so.
Like I said, relative to the body cam, dash cam. Yeah, I needed new dash cams, and it was part of my capital plan. And obviously, I'm sure you do the same. There's a capital plan of replacements, laptops, things like that, those costs.
But I think what people don't understand, I just want to stop you right there, when you talk about a capital plan, so when you talk about capital projects budget, unlike private industry where you can put a certain dollar value away each year and let that surplus build, and then you can go out and buy, you really can't do that in municipalities like with a police budget. I can't put money aside every year.
I can't say.
It's got to be in the budget that year to make the purchase.
Supervisor, can you put this $200,000 over here in my savings account?
Yeah.
And hopefully, so I can use it in a couple of years. No, those are the things you got to plan for, because you can't.
You can't do that.
Those large purchases come up. Like I said, just computers and cameras, and if you got to buy new weapons and things, tasers and all those things cost money,
right?
I think the other part to that is that none of that it all expires. Whether it's a taser, body armor, computer,
they're all perishable. Yeah,
it's all perishable. You get 5 to 7 years out of it, and you're moving on.
Well, I ran into that issue this year. Is our mobile radios in our cars? They've been there as long as I've been there, which me not knowing, obviously I didn't know when they got installed, but the radio company comes to us and says,
1993.
What's that?
1993.
That's a long time.
That's when we moved over to 800, yeah. I say we, when I was at town of Ulster Cop for 22 years.
So they've been there since 93, and now NICOMCO, obviously it's no big secret. We do business with NICOMCO. They says, look, they're
Can't
past
support
their
them
life
anymore.
of we're going to repair them anymore. That was unexpected for me. I didn't plan on new radios.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've been in my world, and unfortunately, if they're not giving us any issues and they're working, then
you don't question
Then
it.
I'm not going to put that in a replacement. They've never failed on us or anything like that. So I've never given any thought. So now they come to me with this price tag of, hey, you got to replace all mobiles. I'm like, well, that changes the whole dynamics. My next year capital plan did include radios, and it's about juggling around. My next year capital plan include new laptops or tablets for the patrol cars. So it was like, hey, it's a juggling match, and unfortunately, there's only so much money to go around because every department needs their part of the budget.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on time.
No, we're okay. We got like a minute and a half to go. So yeah, it's a relevant time of year to talk about it because we're all putting together our budgets. We're probably going to announce ours before the end of the week. We have a call?
Yeah, and for anybody who's interested in the 2022 budget for the police department, it is online. It's been online for about a month now. So for Saugerties, if you go online and just Google Saugerties Police FY 2022 police budget, it'll come right up, and you can take a look and see where we're looking to spend some money. And there should be an explanation for each area that we spend money in, each line item.
And I think I believe Town of Ulster's will be out this week too. I think it's being presented to the board tomorrow's board meeting. But it's nobody's trying to hide it from anybody. It's public knowledge. Yeah. It's public record. Every line item is accounted for, where it goes. Salaries and equipment and things like fuel costs. I mean, those are things when you get into law enforcement. They don't teach you that in the police academy. They don't teach you how to balance a budget for
right. But I just want to say, like, Jill Ducardi, she chaired our committee, and this is the first time since I've been with Saugerties, which has been 10 years now, that we actually had, and I asked for it each year but never received, but actually had public participation in the creation of the budget. Those committees, they came out with recommendations. They helped steer the direction of how our budget was going to be formed for 2022. So I think it's great that they had that, the ability to take part of that process. And I can actually go to the table and say, look, this is not just what Joe Sinagra wants. This is what the community is asking for, because they receive public input on those recommendations.
And I think
before we run out of time on budgets, caution residents, the budgets you're going to see are the preliminaries. That's the first round at it. It's kind of the aspirational, and there's going to be some increases across.
See how he's
Joe's dream.
See how he's trying to soften that blow. He's already telling me you're not getting what you asked for.
It's always a balancing act between what we identify as need and what the residents can afford and what the boards are willing to, or the councils are willing to assign.
So we'll pick up on this right after the break because I got to throw my 2 cents in, but we'll be back in a few.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed. We are a global force for good. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. We can do more together than we can alone. Join in. Experience the joy of serving. Be part of the movement. Give back. Let's unite the world for good. We are Lions. You can be too. Visit weserve.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Hi, my name is Jackie Levezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support the Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
A powerful community bank is one that has leaders that are involved in their community. At Rondout Savings Bank, they invest in the success of our community by working side by side with local people and local businesses. When you choose to bank Rondout, you are part of a bank that is dedicated to the future of your success and the success of your community. Rondout Savings welcomes you to open an account today and discover what it means to be part of a powerful community bank, one that knows you by name. Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and our community, with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park, also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
That way we can...
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, listeners and viewers who have been with us this morning. Those just joining us for this last half hour already. 331-9255 is our call-in number. We would love to hear from you. Joe Sinagra, our police chief from Saugerties, is in the studio, as is Kyle Berardi, police chief from the town of Ulster, and Supervisor Fred Costello.
Good morning.
So we were talking about with the budgets, and certainly understand where any supervisor, whether it be Supervisor Quigley, Supervisor Costello, and the boards, because of the mandates that come down from the state, the tax cap, and a lot of a percentage of everybody's budget, but more so with the police department, is mandated, where you don't have control over, whether it be the union contracts, whether it be mandates from the state, specifically on policing. You don't have that. And it's the same in your position that you sit with medical costs and workers' compensation. I could go on and on with this. We do have a caller, and I don't want to keep the caller waiting. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's a good talk about budgets and everything else. And my quick question and comment is, I'd like to get the opinion of our two police officers there on the new Broadway situation in uptown Kingston, where you got traffic, people exiting into traffic when they park their cars and stuff, because I believe there's a law on the book that says you're not supposed to exit your vehicle into traffic.
I
think there's a law in the V&T section about opening your door into traffic.
Yeah. Correct.
Do I know the exact section? No. I could probably find it, but yeah, I believe there's something in the vehicle and traffic law that says that. Joe and I were both looking at each other here like, hey.
So George, you mean, no, I'm a little confused. You mean just the average person pulls over and opens up their car door when there's traffic coming, or are you talking about when the police initiate a traffic stop?
No, I'm talking about when you drive up Broadway in Kingston now, where you're parking basically almost in the middle of the road next to the active lane of the traffic, where they created that idiotic...
Well, you call it idiotic, so I'm starting to laugh, and I don't mean to cut you short, but I got to tell you, a couple weeks ago, New York State sent me out to Colorado for the Governor's Highway Traffic Safety Conference, and I actually had an opportunity to speak to and listen to the engineers that create these ludicrous traffic circles and whatever you want to call them, and at the end of the day, their final answer is, we do this to make the motorist feel uncomfortable, because they believe that if you feel uncomfortable while you're driving, you're going to pay more attention to driving and not to your cell phone and not to anything else that's going on. Getting people back to just driving. That's why these traffic circles, whatever you want to call them, roundabouts, are so narrow, and a lot of times they're cut down to one lane. They do that intentionally. And I was blown away when these engineers said this. And I'm saying, are you serious? And they said,
definitely
yes.
Control speed. I mean, there was a trend for a long time. You built these wide boulevards.
Yeah, but it also kills bicyclists.
Right, exactly.
Well, but there's designated lanes as you move forward.
There is, but the problem is we implement without educating, and we implement without explaining. Just what the police get blamed for. They just said, if you just took time to explain to people why you're doing what you're doing, they would understand it. Well, we put these roundabouts in, and we change these traffic patterns, and you put parking down the middle of a roadway and a bicycle lane off to the right, but you don't explain to the public, why are we doing this? Okay, what's behind it? So I think if there was some explanation...
There is a theory of complete streets, and that is an acknowledgement that there's going to be car traffic, pedestrian traffic.
But
and
we don't
bicycle
explain it to the
traffic.
public.
I know, but
That's the problem.
Yeah.
We've all sat on these committees, and
Yeah.
I sit on the STAC committee for a long time up in Saugerties, and Traffic Safety Advisory Council, right? And we talk about it, we understand it, but we've never explained it to the public. And I think that's where we miss the mark, and that's why, when George brings up a very valid question, George, I don't know the answer, I'll be honest with you. I don't know. To me, I guess that would be a direct violation of vehicle and traffic law, because you have a parking lane in the middle of the roadway. It's not off to the shoulder. So it would be acceptable to open your car door when you're on the shoulder, but when you're in the, next to a driving lane and you have a bicycle lane on the other side of you, that's a really good question. What about the passenger throwing the door open in a bicyclist?
In Saugerties, we run into this on Partition Street all the time. Folks have to be cautious when they park on Partition Street opening their door, because there's very little tolerance between flowing traffic in the cars that are parked.
Every week we've got cars getting mirrors ripped off, car doors getting crunched. Oh yeah,
I think it goes to show you, Joe, like you just said about regarding education. I think when a project's put into place and rolled out, when it looks like it caters to one particular group over the other, that's when the explanation doesn't come into effect. So now, if you take Broadway, for example, well, it slowly looks like it was catered to bicyclists, right? Well, because nobody educated the public relative to the fact is why was it designed this way? And I'm not for or against it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying relative to the concerns of the community, they feel it's one-sided.
No, I agree with you. I agree wholeheartedly. That's the point. Yeah.
Right, and as a private citizen, you comment on the license plate reader and the cameras and stuff. If you are not doing nothing wrong, you got nothing to worry about.
It's true, George.
That's right.
And the fact is, it's there for safety and protection because of the idiotic new laws that they came out with bail reform, where people are afraid to talk anymore because their name is going to be right out there to be harassed and everything else. So you people need something to help you solve these crimes and stuff, because it sure the heck is not our politicians. Our people up in Albany and stuff, I don't think they have a clue of what really goes on in the outside world, come up with some of the decisions that they make. And all they're doing is making your job harder and stuff, and making it more unsafe for the people that live in these cities and towns and everything. So.
Right. When you go back to just talking about bail reform, and I'll give you a perfect example of this myself, and now the current police chief in the city of Newburgh, Anthony DeRossi. When Anthony was with NYSACOP, New York State Association of Chiefs of Police, he and I had an opportunity just before bail reform came into play to sit down with Crystal Peoples-Stokes from the Assembly and the Senate. Actually, she's with the Assembly, correct? And she's with the Democratic caucus. And we sat down and we spoke to her about bail reform, and she was actually unaware of the fact, something that she voted on, that her information would be turned over. And she said, "You mean when I see something happening in Albany and I call 911, if somebody gets arrested, that person gets my name and number?" And I said, yes, that's exactly what happened under bail reform. This is exactly what you voted for. She had not realized that. So I think a lot of times, in fairness, maybe in somewhat in ignorance, I think some of our politicians, they rely too heavily on aides to inform them on a bill rather than actually take the time to look at the bill themselves. And I understand, I realize there's hundreds of bills that come into play, and then we know that there's bills attached to bills in order to get certain items passed. But I think we need to slow the process down a little bit. And I think our representatives, the people that we elect to public office, they need and they owe it to us, and we deserve it, that they take the time to actually read the law for themselves, fully understand, and then genuinely listen to the concerns, like in this case with bail reform, to the District Attorneys Association of New York, to the Sheriff's Association of New York, to the Police Chiefs Association of New York, as well as listening to the general public before they make a decision on passing a bill. Get as much information as possible, get the factual information, and not innuendos, and not pass bills based on personal agendas. And I think if we did that, we would have a much better system. But unfortunately, we don't right now.
Right, and well, Fred, Greg, I want to thank all you guys for being there every week and stuff, and for the job that our law enforcement does day in and day out. And like I said before, there are a lot of people out here that respect what you people do and appreciate what you guys do, and also for some of our political leaders who know how to do things right. And you guys take care. Have a great day. And I'll keep listening, and I hope everybody else keep listening to the show. It's a great program. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Have a great day.
So while I was in Colorado, you'll get a kick out of this, Kyle. So while I was in Colorado, I grabbed an inspector from the Suffolk County Police Department that was there with me, and a chief that just retired out of West Seneca Falls, and he's part now of traffic safety for New York State. And we went to a cannabis dispensary. Did I tell you this, Fred?
No.
So we went to a cannabis.
Though.
So we went to. We had some downtime one afternoon.
Oh, that's what he called it.
We went to this cannabis dispensary, and it was very. I got to tell you something. The business model of this industry is absolutely amazing. I can see why they're making, the ones that are in this that have the capital to do this are making the money on it. And one thing I would caution listeners to, if you think you're going to get involved in the cannabis industry here in New York State, save your money. There was a great article that came out in the New York Times. It was back in January of this year about the cannabis industry in Canada, and about how people were going to jump on the bandwagon, and they were going to open dispensaries, and they were going to open consumption locations, and they were going to get into cultivating. You're way behind the eight ball on this. The major industries that can have the sustainability and the capital to do this in New York will come from outside of New York State. And the reason why I say that is because they've already established the market, and they know the ins and outs of the market, and it's a very difficult market. And when you take a look at the business model, if you're not a shrewd business person, have been involved in this for a period of time, you're not going to make it. So my recommendation is save your money, let those that have the experience and know what they're doing, if they're going to, if municipalities stay in and don't opt out, allow the ones that have done this before in the past and have a successful track record come into your community, because they're genuinely there for the people. And what I mean by that is I'm working with New York City CIA, which is a cannabis industry association. I'm the liaison for New York State Chiefs. And they understand this loophole that I've been arguing about with individuals less than 21 years of age. They acknowledge the loophole exists. They acknowledge the law is flawed. And they have attorneys now that are working to see that this law is amended and fixed. And that's what we have to do now as a law enforcement community. I know this is going to sound odd when I say this.
Wait a minute. I know you have identified a problem.
Right.
And Colorado has the same.
No, see, this is what's interesting. So Colorado's law.
Colorado.
Okay.
Jumping
So,
around.
well, I'm jumping around because I'm going back and forth because I'm trying. Colorado did it right. When you take a look at their laws in Colorado,
They've had the benefit of being one of the first.
Correct.
And they've already weeded out some of the problems that they started out with.
Exactly. So going back to our politicians, why didn't we take a look at their model and talk to them and say, this is what's working in Colorado? Why did we do something that's so broad in New York that we have to now basically trip over our feet the same way they did in Colorado and say, oh, this is a bad idea, let's change it?
I think, well, if you talk to state officials, they would tell you that that's exactly what they did. They looked to Colorado.
But if you look at the laws, they're so drastically different.
If you take a snapshot of 4 years ago when that dialogue started in Albany, they probably did copy what Colorado had on the books 4 years ago. I don't know that they kept up with the trend. This is going to be crazy interesting to watch, and for people who are kind of academic about this and wonky, I think it's going to be really interesting to unfold too. And I think you touched on a lot of it. The groups that are coming to the Hudson Valley and have expressed some interest even in Saugerties for cultivation, the expertise that is behind those groups is from out of state. There's not a lot of local cultivation activity because we don't have a legacy of it here. And the folks that do have a legacy in it have been doing it illegally, and they're not really ready to come forward. In addition to that, the current cultivating inventory represents about 20% of what's identified as the New York City market. So 80% of New York City and the balance of New York State doesn't have access to lawful cultivated marijuana. So there's going to be a gap of months as we ramp up our ability to produce, where legacy markets are going to be the supplier, so to speak, for the dispensaries. And I think it's a note of caution to folks who want to get into the dispensary business. You may not have inventory to sell, or you may have to be forced, if you want to do it, into a situation where you may compromise your morality to do it.
Right. So with knowing that both you and the mayor have said that you're not going to opt out for our municipality, which I totally back 100%, I think the position now, law enforcement has to embrace this legislation. And we have to work with the stakeholders that are creating these laws. We have to work with the stakeholders that are going to be bringing this industry into our municipalities to foster legislation that's going to protect the most vulnerable of our communities, and that's our children. And I got to tell you something. The individuals that I'm working with the New York City CIA and the Hudson Valley CIA, the attorneys are tremendous. They understand this because they, at the end of the day, don't want cannabis to be blamed as the root of all evil, because they know if that happens, the industry is going to be destroyed. But there's a backlash to this that the community has to understand. We have been told cannabis is legalized. However, and we've also been told by our government that we spent way too much money on a war on drugs, especially when it came to the cannabis, the old marijuana industry, right? Can't call it marijuana anymore under the law. You have to call it cannabis. So we have been told that we spent way too far money on this war on drugs, particularly when it came to marijuana, cannabis. However, because the government is taxing it, they're going to be asking law enforcement to go after the black market. And we're going to be spending a lot of money and a lot of resources going after those backyard growers that are selling within the community. So I'm really interested to see how this unfolds and how the community accepts that, because again, the one thing they asked us not to do is don't be going after individuals, for marijuana violations. But we're going to be asked to do that now, those that are operating outside the acceptable marketplace.
Well, you look at it, the fact is, because if you're trying to, let's say, screw the government, then they have a problem with it.
Exactly. Amen to you, brother. You got it. You know it. That's exactly what it comes down to. So I find it very ironic, though, because we're going to have to change our tactics again back to what they were. We're going to have to take a look at who's in the communities and who's operating those illegal industries, and that's where they're going to become the target. And probably the government is going to spend, I almost guarantee you, just like we do with traffic safety, they're going to start throwing money at special initiatives that go after the black market.
Agreed. I mean, there's a fairly large threshold for people to go through the Cannabis Bureau and earn lawful permits to engage in the industry. If you're going to do that, you have to protect those folks that did it the right way. Right. You can't just look the other way for folks that might not be doing it in compliance with what those parameters end up being. I think it's worth quick note, though. The law doesn't allow a dispensary to also be a grow. Correct. There has to be a separation of those, which I think is appropriate. And in Saugerties, the principle that we're kind of abiding by is we're looking at the sale of alcohol and kind of reflecting that the distribution for cannabis dispensaries will somewhat mimic that. And we're hoping to expand. And this goes to your point about protecting children, and so we're going to expand the setbacks between churches and schools above and beyond what the
current legislation says. Yeah,
and also I think the zoning we're going to use as a tool to kind of disperse these, where they're going to be a minimum of a mile apart, and that will roughly allow for it with the same distribution of the liquor stores in the community. So I think we're on a fairly good track. And, once that's all in place, then we could evaluate it and see if we were right or if we were wrong and move forward from there. But it's an interesting challenge. It's really upside down. We grew up, and there was certainly a lot of cannabis around when we were in high school and our college years. Right. And it was a taboo, so you sort of stayed away from it. And now to have these conversations openly with peers who would be judgmental if we got caught with it as a kid, it's interesting.
It is very interesting.
No. I just, my whole thing is a concern. I'm concerned about the youth. I've said this before, and I use this all the time. I mean, growing up as a kid, parents used to smoke in front of their kids. They smoked in the car, in the house, wherever they left their cigarettes around, whatever the case may be. Nobody thought anything about it, right? Yep. Obviously, I didn't become a smoker, but I'm sure plenty of people did. Then we go through life and we realize that smoking is bad for you, right? Mm-hmm. Secondhand smoke's bad for you. Mm-hmm. Firsthand smoke's bad for you. So then we change all these rules and policies to limit the amount of access young youth have to cigarettes. Mm-hmm. Take them out of store windows, no signs, no this. Block them up at the grocery stores, whatever the case may be. And now we're creating a law that allows parents basically to smoke marijuana in front of their kids. Yeah. There's nobody that says we can't. Mm-hmm. So now what's the likelihood is their kids, not to say all of them, but the likelihood is their kids going to smoke marijuana because of the fact is their parents do it and it's acceptable. Mm-hmm. Are we going to see the same turn of events in years from now realizing like, Hey, this isn't good for them. We got to limit the access that youth have to marijuana.
Hopefully, we're going to at least base the restrictions off of the restrictions that already exist on tobacco, and then some.
We do the same thing with alcohol too. I mean, that's the thing. We fight to educate the youth about alcohol and the dangers of drinking and driving and whatever the case may be. Is the reward for allowing cannabis, and I know obviously it comes down to money, and the amount of money the state's going to make off of for allowing it to be sold, is that going to outweigh the cost in the end to educate and enforce and everything else that's going to come on the backside of it?
That's an interesting point, because it's going to be like the education with the lottery. Yes, the percentage of the lottery sales go into education, but we spend $45 billion a year on education, and I think the lottery contributes like $10 billion. It's a percentage. It's almost a rounding error. And cannabis is going to be a similar thing. There's going to be significant amounts of money, but what does that actually look like? If it's going to be $10 billion into the state budget, which is $170 billion already, it's not. We're not going to wake up all of a sudden and find ourselves awash in all this relief and tax. It's going to be a rounding error. It's going to blend in pretty quickly too. And there's a cost with it, and you pointed to it. There's a cost to educating people about the risks of tobacco, and there's a healthcare cost built into that because people suffer hypertension and all the negative effects with lung cancer, and there's a community cost associated with that, and there's going to be that with marijuana as well. It's not you're not going to see it on a nutritionist list of things that are good for you. It's
it's like going to your doctor and he says your blood pressure's up, your weight's up. I want to send you for blood work. Like, doc, 2 out of 3, the chance of the third one coming out good for me is about
probably not. Yeah.
But the funny thing is, and I'll go back to Colorado and compare it to Saugerties, is that I walk a post in Saugerties, I smell weed. Somebody smoking, I smell it. Colorado, I'm walking up and down, I'm right in the city, right in Denver, nothing. And I talked to the police about it, and they said really what happened is that people started to police themselves. They realized that it was not accepted by a lot of people that it be out in the open. Because, again, especially when you're talking about, and again, this is for Saugerties, tourist destinations. We have a lot of events where it's family-friendly, and people respect that, and they don't smoke in the public. They'll smoke in a back alley, the cops said, and they get left alone because it's legal, but they don't do it out.
The standard for tobacco and marijuana exists, so somebody shouldn't be blowing tobacco in my face.
Comes to education, educating people that, hey, this is acceptable, but it's acceptable under these parameters.
But you understand what you're gonna see it because you guys have a lot of public events up in Saugerties.
Right.
You're gonna get the complaints, right? You're gonna get the complaints that why is my family gotta endure this? This family is smoking marijuana.
Restaurants immediately, within 24 hours of the passage of the law back in March, I received phone calls from most of the restaurants in the village of Saugerties saying, what can we do to prevent people from smoking marijuana in our restaurant? I said, it's very simple. It's already covered under tobacco law. And they didn't realize that. And they posted. I said, make sure you got posted that, no smoking here, no vaping, because no smoking covers also the vaping part of it. I think the biggest concern is our children and our motorists. Because we're going to have a lot of people under the influence of cannabis that are going to be operating motor vehicles. And that synergistic effect of consuming alcohol and then smoking cannabis is going to be a problem. That's why they really should start educating people now. They've passed it.
The fact is, too, it's how it affects people, right? We know very well some people can have one drink and they're feeling under the influence. Some people can have 10 drinks and not feel under the influence. The fact is, we're not really sure how the effects of marijuana is going to affect everybody. Some people, I'm sure, that smoke marijuana regularly now, less likely to feel it, right? Because they become resistant to that. That's the word.
And a bigger concern is the edibles, more so than the products that you can smoke, the buds. And the budologist, the person that educated us, because I got to tell you, they were very.
Did you sample any, Joe?
No, we didn't use anything. They were very receptive. They knew we were the police. We told them we were the police, and they spent half a day with us, educating us on all the products. And I tell you, it was an eye opener to learn about how many products are, especially edibles. Everything from cookies to candies to coffees and teas, and so there's a whole other side of this. But what we found out with the edibles is that the amount of THC that's present in the edibles, depending on the type of edible, depends on the strength of it. And so there's stuff that they tell you straight out. If you're using this, you don't drive. You don't go out. This is something you do in your own home because it's really going to get you high.
It's going to whack you.
And then there's some mild stuff. And then there's the medicinal side of it, which was really interesting for people that suffer from anxiety. So there are some good uses of this. I'm not a big Debbie Downer like I was in the beginning. I'm still very cautious about this, but I also come to the realization as a law enforcement officer that it's been legalized, so now I have to deal with it.
Well, and I think it's just like everything else. We're not resistant to opioids, right? Opioids do have their purpose. They treat medical issues and whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying that marijuana is not good for people. I mean, there's some people that have these long-term illnesses that really live a better life because of it. But everything should be done in moderation. The fact is that the end result's left with law enforcement. And the end result is how to maintain it, how to enforce it, and how to keep everybody else safe while those that choose to do it are doing it.
Right. And that's where we, as police chiefs, and that's where the State Chiefs Association, State Sheriffs Association is getting active with these groups about the legislation so that we can redesign the legislation so it does protect our community members. And the other part of it is to be able to come up with testing tools for people that are under the influence of cannabis, which does not exist anywhere right now in the United States. There is no scientific equipment that can definitively say this person is high when they're roadside and they've been stopped by the police after they've been consuming. And that's a problem. We had breathalyzer instruments to measure alcohol, but we have nothing to measure the cannabis.
Okay, I'm going to have to cut you short. Again, we are just about out of time as we're approaching the 9 o'clock hour.
And here goes Flash Gordon. Here goes Flash Gordon right through the room.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was talking to my mother.
Thank you, Chief Sinagra. Thank you, Chief Berardi. Thank you, Fred Costello, Supervisor Town of Saugerties. Thank you, Lawrence, and most importantly, thank you, listeners. We'll be back here again next Wednesday.